Okay, we are live. Just want to double check and make sure.
I don't see us live.
It says we, well, it says we are. Yeah, we are. I'm waiting on someone to text me. If anyone's out there, text me, let me know that we are live. Yes, we are. Okay, I got it. We're good. Oh. All right, you ready, Sonya?
Yeah, whenever you are.
All right.
I don't see it.
My wife just texted me. Yeah, I said we've been over 2 minutes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, well, thank you guys. We are welcome back to our next series of Legacy Talk series with the Legacy Business League, and we have a special guest today. But I would like to thank everyone for joining today. And the Legacy Business League is a nonprofit organization aiming to empower minority professionals and businesses by providing a network that will assist in the building and expansion of its members through the shared resources, professional development, and along the Gulf Coast, Mississippi Gulf Coast. Our mission is fueled by the sacrifices made by past generations, and our goal is to create a legacy for generations to come. And you guys, while you on, we thank you so much for joining in with us. Please go ahead and create a watch party or like and share this Legacy Talk series. And you guys, we are in for a good one today. I am excited about it. While you at it, please also just send it out. Go ahead and make a watch party. Make sure that all your friends and colleagues know about this. We're bringing the best, absolute best leaders in and around Mississippi, talking about what you want to hear, from business development, entrepreneurship, to community health, government policies, and how just to overcome life obstacles. And today, our special guest, District 119 State Representative Sonya Barnes. Welcome, Sonya. Thank you so much for coming here today. And before we dive into all of the excitement that's going on around the country and even in Gulfport, but first, I must ask. Let's hear from Sonya. Sonya, tell us who you are and who is Sonya Barnes, and give us a quick intro, please.
Well, I'm not good at introducing myself. I rather my work speak for me. But I am Sonya Williams Barnes. I am a born bred resident of Gulfport, the Gaston Point community, is the community in which I come out of. And my homestead of my father still lives there in Gaston Point. I am a graduate of Jackson State University, um,
Yeah, I
a
love that's what
product
I hear.
of Mississippi Public Schools. Pass Christian High School is where I went to high school, Jackson State University. I worked on Capitol Hill for a little while, decided to come back home and let my parents retire from the funeral home business. And so since 1999, I have run and operated Lockett Williams Mortuary. We've been an established company since 1948, serving the residents of the Mississippi Gulf Coast and the state as a whole. I am a mother of one adult child. It's kind of funny to say adult, but he is 20 years old, soon to be 21. So that's really close to an adult.
Yep.
And I serve in the Mississippi legislature, and I have for this is my ninth session that I'm currently in serving as the representative for House District 119.
Nice, nice, nice. You know, and it's so cool that we're having this talk today and all the different things that are going on right now. But you know, Sonya, we have a good history and we have a good friendship and we worked on different things together. But I want you to do something for us today. I want you to just allow us to get into your SUV and drive up to Jackson. And we want to take a ride with you today. And we want to just live in the life with what you do up there in Jackson. And I ask everyone that's on Facebook right now, hey, let's buckle up. Let's jump in Sonya's SUV and let's have a conversation driving up to Jackson. I would not ask you how long it takes you to get up there, but I will
Please
how fast
don't.
it takes you to get up there. But I know that it is a great opportunity to have you on the show with us today. And so let's just dive into a few questions, and we'll just migrate and we'll grow as we grow. As How long? I think you've just mentioned you served our community for how long now?
I've served as House Representative for House District 119 since 2012. I was elected in 2011. And so this is my ninth legislative session that I'm currently in. I've served the community all of my life. I come from a family of a background of community servants. And so that's my take on that.
Awesome, awesome. So while we're riding through up on 49, going to Jackson, one of your top 5 moments as a state rep.
Top 5 moments as a state rep. First being sworn in and taking the oath to serve the residents of House District 119 was a very proud moment. Of course, being elected, not one, not two, but 3 times, have been of, humbling experience to know that the people of my district believe in me and believe what I stand for, and that I have proven to them for them to reelect me again to do the work for them. But mostly, I would say when someone calls upon me and asks for a service of some type, my constituents that call and ask, can I get help with this? Can I get help with that? Whether it's moving their loved one from one correctional facility to another, or whether it's help getting their Medicaid established, or helping with that process. Constituent services are what makes me most proud of what I do. Legislation, of course, plays a big part. But when I feel the most proud is when I can help my fellow man.
Nice, nice. And that's so important and we're going to really dive into that as well and like get down to some of the specifics. I know that as a state legislator, when you're when you're in Jackson, you get pulled in a lot of different directions. Um, I like to ask, what are some of the challenges? We talk about some of the high points. What are some of the challenges you have overcome as a legislator?
Well, as some of you may or may not know, I am a Democrat, and the Democrats in the House of Representatives in the state of Mississippi are the minority in. And so many times there's legislation that is good legislation to be passed that we just don't have enough votes to support. And so I have found that to be a challenge, but knowing this political arena and between me being a political science major and knowing the educational part of
Mhm.
political science and then getting here and my experience prior to coming, um, it has, I've found ways to maneuver in the minority and yet be successful in that maneuver.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'll share with you a couple
Yes,
pieces of
please.
legislation that I worked on. So I had a constituent of Harrison County to give me a call, and I'll go on and call his name. It's Brian Pierce, Mr. Brian Pierce. Many of
Mhm.
you all know him.
Outstanding.
And
Yes.
Mr. Pierce lost two children in a car accident. And so he's been a very strong advocate for seatbelt use in the state of Mississippi. And
Yes.
so he wanted to, I listened to my constituents. I asked them, what are things that you want to change? I don't have all of the ideas, but I am a tool that they can use in order to, produce things that they want to see for their state. And
Yes.
so I reached out and did an ask, and Mr. Pierce came to me, and we worked on back seat belt legislation for several years.
Mm.
And because of Democrats being the minority, the legislation died. It's not an easy process up here. It takes, a lot of work. So as I began to build relationships from the moment that I got here 8 years ago, I established relationships with people that sit on the other side of the aisle, that we may not have all of the same views, but we do have many views that are common. And so I reached out to one of my colleagues and I asked them to introduce the same piece of legislation that Brian and I had worked on. Brian had made several trips up here asking people to support this legislation, but the legislation died sessions before. Are you
So
wanting to say something?
are you saying that you have colleagues or friends on the other side, like
Oh, of
Republicans? You
course.
you
You
actually
have
talk to
to.
them?
Of course I do.
You do?
Yeah, you have to. This is
Am
a
I shocked? I, it
it's a
is amazing that people may not think that you guys do collaborate a lot on.
Oh, way more. We agree on way more things. And in fact, we actually vote on way more legislation together than we do separate. It's only, it's a small amount of legislation that's passed that you have party divides on the vote.
I'm
Um,
sorry, I interrupt you, but go ahead, please finish.
so
Sorry.
I had a colleague that I went to and I was like, I want you to look at this piece of legislation. And he's like, this is good legislation. Why can't we get
Mhm.
it passed? And I said, I don't know, but I need your help. So I'm not so proud that I can't ask for, assistance. And so he introduced the same piece of legislation about seatbelt um, legislation, and it passed, went to the governor. And now the reason that we are protecting people throughout our state with backseat seatbelts being mandated is because of a constituent of Harrison County, Mr. Brian Pierce.
Wow, that is phenomenal. And so Sonya, with you introducing the legislation or that bill that previously died several times before, and do you have the opportunity of the process sometimes maybe it may be deflated or who sent it up. So could you talk about how what happens when a legislator from another party introduces a bill, but is taken up by another party, and what happens?
Yeah, so in it's not all over America.
Mhm.
However, I can speak to what happens here in Mississippi. Many times, if there's a legislature that introduces legislation that is from the opposite side of leadership, it may not move. And in order to make it move, they may have to take some votes that, they wouldn't normally take. But I've just found that there are other ways to do that without hurting the people that I represent, without voting against the people that I represent. And it's truly about relationships,
Mhm.
gaining respect, respecting others,
Mhm.
um, and all of that works together in order to make things happen. And
Nice.
so, just through experience, that's what I've, found to be effective.
Right, right. So with that bill, if we go look it up, from my understanding that even though you've introduced the bill several times, we won't find your name on the bill, right?
No, you won't find my name on it. And I could have put my name on it after, it passed the House. I could have added my name, but Carlos, I'll just be honest with you. My name is not what's important. What's important is the work and to make sure that the people that I represent are are represented well,
Mhm.
and that their voices are heard here in the state capitol on legislation that pertains to them especially.
Yeah.
And so I just I've been kind of criticized for not being a dog to wag its own tail, but work
Got
precedes
it.
my name. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. What's the name of that bill? I know. You recall
I
the name
can
of it?
I can get no, but I can definitely get. I mean, I don't know if it was actually named, but I
Okay.
can get you the year and the bill number
Right.
when it
Right.
actually went into law
Okay.
and signed by the governor. I've also had other legislation the same. There were a group of ladies, a lot of African American women have dense breast tissue. And when you have dense breast tissue, a mammogram does not always detect breast cancer.
Mm.
And so I had a group of ladies at the majority of them were from District 119 who came to me and they said that they wanted it to be um, mandatory for doctors to let women know that, or men know that when they get a mammogram done, if they have dense breast tissue, because then that means that they should go and get another test, like an ultrasound, in
Mm.
order to be able to detect that. And we did that for a few years. We did flyers. They came up and lobbied. And I'm happy to say that there was a senator from North Mississippi who owned an imaging company. And it's good to know what people do. And you usually find out what people do outside of the Capitol.
Mhm.
So when people hear of legislators, going to dinners and doing a lot of interacting outside of the Capitol, that sounds like it's, just fun times. What's happening is that you are learning people outside of this setting.
Yeah.
And that's when you become to know who the real people are, which also explains why many times you can respect people for the way that they vote on certain things because you know some background about them. And so I went to that senator and I was like, you own this imaging company. Would this, I want you to look over some legislation that I've worked on. Would this help you? You
Nice.
think I could help on this? You could help me on this. And so he looked at it, it's like, oh, yeah, we need this. And um, my little ladies came on up here, my breast cancer survivors sat down with the governor at that time, Phil Bryant, and he signed that into law.
Right.
And so,
Right.
victories come like that. Victories also come in amendments. So just because your legislation may not come to the floor of the House, which, takes a lot to get it to that point. You can also do amendments, and amendments are there. You know, I one amendment you asked me a few minutes ago
Hmm.
about a legislative, triumph.
Yeah.
One was I did an amendment that allowed a portion of the Mississippi lottery to go to public education, um, after it was to pay for the the transportation issues
Nice.
that we were having in the state. And so that amendment passed, and is currently in law. No name on it, but it's there. Yeah.
That is so amazing because that doesn't just affect District 119. That is
Oh
like
no.
the whole state of Mississippi,
And it
and
may just be a little money each year,
yeah.
but I just could not see us passing a lottery bill without something going towards education. Most other states, that's the only thing their lottery is for. Mississippi
Wow.
is not, but there's a piece in there
A
that
little
is
bit. I
for.
think it's after a certain time, but
That's
hey,
right.
it's going. That's right. That's
And
right.
so
That's
after we reach that, we will start to see that, if
wow.
nothing changes. Yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome. You guys, we are in Jackson, Mississippi, and we are having a great ride with Sonya, Representative Sonya Williams Barnes. And you guys, I want to throw another scenario in the mix of this. I'm trying to keep this interested so that people can tune in and stay tuned in. I want to give you a scenario. We're in Jackson. You're in session. The Speaker of the House has started the session, and all of a sudden he says, "You guys, the session will be ending in about 15 minutes with no agenda. There's nothing hidden. It's just, hey, you guys go home and have a good weekend." Can you can you give us a snapshot of what happens next
When we're released for the weekend.
if when you release early?
Oh, okay. So you will
No
see
agendas,
people.
no agendas, just released, go home.
So I think I'm following you, Carlos. When we're released for the weekend, you will
Right,
see
right.
people, conversating. A lot of chitter chatting is going on all the time on the floor.
Hmm.
The Senate is a little more reserved,
Hmm.
has a little more reserved setting. They're quiet over there. The House is kind of considered the wild team. So
Yeah.
when people are up debating and everything, it's always a lot of chatter up until now with COVID-19 and how we're having to operate under the CDC guidelines
Yeah.
of the close proximity. So you will see a lot of chatting. You will see people wishing each other well for the weekend. And then you come back to your communities and you participate in weekend activities. So your job just never ends. You're
Hmm.
always expected to and should be available to your constituents. Um, Being a community servant is, not the easiest thing in the world. And I think a few people are called to do this job. You'll see some that, come and only stay for a little while. And
Hmm.
then you see others who come and are able to make a difference, stay for a little while. And then you see some that stay too long. So, it's rewarding. It has
That's
its
good.
its rewards. I will say that I think our families of elected officials make huge sacrifices. And I'm very fortunate to have a very supportive family, of because when I first came into office, my son was, I guess, 11 or 12. Yeah. And so my dad would keep him while I would be in Jackson, which was an adjustment for both of us, all three of us.
Yeah.
And but he and my uncle stepped up to the plate and they, supported in that way. And my sister and her family, they support me now because I'm able to come up here and live in their home while I'm in legislative session. So that's been rewarding. So I think a lot of times we don't give kudos to
Mm.
families of elected officials because we give so much time of ourselves to our community that our family sacrifice as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
You spoke about youth and your son, and you've always opened the opportunity for young people. I think high school students mostly to have an opportunity to come up and
Right.
spend some time with you and really learn what goes on. Tell us a little bit about that program, and then we're going to jump right into COVID-19.
Okay.
And
It's our page program here at the house,
yeah,
and right now it's suspended because of COVID-19.
hmm
So there's an opportunity for each legislator to have 2 pages that come and spend a week in Jackson, and they run errands and they watch the process and they participate in that way. A very good experience that I open to those who live in my district.
yeah,
Just
and
contact me and let me know. Hopefully by next year, we'll be able to have that program back in
yeah,
place.
and it's an excused absence as well, right? I mean, I think the
It
school
is. It
districts do
is. School
support that.
districts will excuse it.
That's nice.
It's
That's
an
nice. You guys,
educational experience.
yes, it is, and that's a very, very good opportunity for our children to really get up there to understand what goes on in our state government. You guys, so Sonya, can you just talk to us about the what's the buzz in Jackson right now with the COVID-19 recovery?
Okay, so right now we have passed legislation for small businesses to be able to receive some help assistance um, from loss of business during this epidemic.
Hmm.
And there's a list of businesses. The process for that application for the state money, the money that came from the federal government to the state, was opened up last week. I can get
Better
you,
Business.
excuse me.
What's the name of that program?
I can
Better
get it's back
Back to
to
Business.
business Mississippi. And
Yeah.
let me give you the website. It's BACK
Hmm.
to business Mississippi. No, I'm sorry, ms.org. Let me stick it up here. Can you see it?
Yep. Back to Business ms.org. And our Facebook administrators will put that in our live feed for our audience to jump on there. Back to Business ms.org.
And there is opportunity, especially like for our small businesses, like our barbers and our hairstylists. Those salons are able to get an immediate $2,000 and up to $25,000, just depending on the paperwork that's required if they have that in place. And so I am, because I'm a small business, I have
Mhm.
and own a small business. I'm not a small business. I own a small business. I'm very interested and concerned about, minorities being able to participate in these different programs. Also, minorities just being able to have access to information to better your business, because I think it's so important for African Americans to grow our wealth, and we grow
Yes.
our wealth by supporting our Black-owned businesses.
Yes.
And so, when one does well, we all do well.
Yep.
And so I do want to throw that out there. Support a Black-owned business. Try to make sure that, when you choose what restaurant you go to, that
Mhm.
you choose a Black-owned business, um, and publicize for them. And if you have a business, make sure that it's publicized, and it's that you promote your business,
Yeah.
so that others can support it. And
Yeah.
that's why I thank, the Legacy Business League for doing, all the work that you all are doing and allowing these opportunities, because there are resources out there to ensure that you succeed in
Yeah.
business. And so it's important that, we use those resources.
Speaking of small business, we know that you are an entrepreneur, and COVID-19 has is in full effect, and you know, what have you done to reposition your staff and your company to accommodate the pandemic, but also to accommodate families that are in grief and in pain? And what have you done differently? And
So
how have you raised
let me say this. I'm not sure if we even said the name of the company, but I own Lockett Williams Mortuary.
Yes.
And and you know, COVID-19 has affected the African American community in, I mean, it's
Yeah.
large gaps between how we have been affected than other races have been affected. And a lot of our outbreaks have happened right at funerals. You know, it's our time, and it's our culture, is when we gather together and we hug and we eat and we cry and we console and
Hmm.
those things, and we have large groups. You know, you may not see a family member, just culturally you may not see a family member for years, but let somebody die and
Oh yeah.
everybody shows up. And so it's so important that we know how to handle ourselves, and that the industry of funeral service knows how to operate under these circumstances. And
Yeah.
so, you know,
Very
me
important.
personally, I have asked for, people to wear masks. We have kept our numbers of with visitations down to follow the guidelines of CDC. We have sanitizing stations. And we just try to make sure that people are protected,
Yeah.
staying 6 feet apart, all of those things. I don't want us to be lost in other news that's going on now and forget that we are still in the middle of a pandemic, and one that is affecting our community much greater than any other
Yeah.
community. And so we
Yeah.
have to protect ourselves, we have to protect our elderly, we have to protect, others. And
Yeah.
so, and here in the Capitol, you'll see I'm in my office now that I share with two other people. Um, but it's everyone's not wearing masks around here. If you go up to the House floor, you'll see people not wearing masks, and being in people's personal space within, there's no way to have 122 people in a room, more than 122 people in a room,
Hmm.
and not be, 6 feet apart in
Yeah.
such a small area. And so I just, encourage people, please, if you are out socializing, protect yourselves, but protect others. And just because you may not have any underlying health issues that you think that you wouldn't die from it, protect those who do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So important. So important. Um, Sonya, a few weeks ago, there was a unity march. I know that we're pivoting from the COVID-19 to now. I would like to just talk to you about the unity march that happened in Gulfport, and what did that whole experience mean to you? And kind of give us from your point of view what's your take on it?
So, first, let me go back to the moment that I saw George Floyd die
Mhm.
in the custody of the police officer. Um, I went through so many emotions, as a mother, especially hearing him just wail out to his mother, you know, um, hearing him beg and plead for who I later found out was deceased, which just made it more intensified that he was
Yeah.
screaming out to his mom, who he knew was not living. Um, as a mother of a Black man, it, you know, disturbed me. I mean, literally took me to the bed.
Yeah.
Um, just to think that another human would do such to someone else and impose on his stance was kind of what reminded me of the same type of stance that a hunter would hold up the horns of, I don't think you call them horns, I think you call them antlers, on
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
deer to pose for a picture, that his kill
Hmm.
is kind of how I saw that. And I was disturbed. I was angry. I was sad. Um,
Mm.
it affected me. I mean, so many different emotions came across. And then to begin to see the different protests and riots across our nation um, channeled the energy,
Yeah.
in all different types of directions
Yeah.
as well. But what I can say is that I was proud to see the marches. We had two marches on that Saturday
Yeah.
in Gulfport. And that morning march, the morning was a march that was done with the police department, Gulfport Police Department,
Mm.
and done and led by Mr. Greg Whitfield.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, that march I went to and was able
And the
to
legacy
provide
group. We help.
and legacy. Okay, yes, there were actually several
Yes.
sponsors of that, but I believe it was. I think he did lead it. You
He
all
did. He
supported.
did.
Okay,
Yes.
all
Absolutely.
right. And so give everybody credit,
Oh yes.
and
Oh yeah.
just to see so many people come out with a heart that was different than mine at the time. And just being honest with you, I did not necessarily feel for me at that time that I was ready to lock arms and, with the police department and say let's move forward.
Mm-hmm.
But I respected it. I respected it. I
Oh yeah.
participated in it and I
Yeah.
supported it. I felt that we need to go to the police department and tell them what our young Black men are experiencing here in Gulfport
Yeah.
or there in Gulfport. And we need to make some demands before we join in fellowship with them. That's what I was thinking at that time. But after going to the march and seeing the many people that were there that were ready to be in a place that I wasn't ready to be in, I respected them and I supported them in that manner. And then that afternoon to see another young man. I mean, these are young Black men that
Yeah.
are organizing,
Mm-hmm.
marches. And the second group that met at 6 p.m., they gathered and they had a different approach to their protests. They called it a protest for one.
Mm-hmm.
And there were lots of young people. You saw college students. You saw people that I didn't know the many faces. That morning, I knew way more faces than I knew that afternoon. But just to be able to see them collaborate and organize and be able to share their voices emotionally, but without violence,
Right.
was very rewarding to me. And both of these young men, um, Delon and Greg,
Right.
I commend them for the work that they have been doing with, organizing and moving to make sure that some change happens.
Right.
Because it
Right.
lets me know that I don't always have to be on the front line forever, that there are people there are young people that are involved, that are active, they haven't given up. And they aren't afraid to share their voices or their
Right.
views, even though
Right.
their views may sound different, but the objective, the goal was the same thing, and that
Yeah.
was peace
Yeah.
and change. And I want to commend them, and I want to commend all of those that supported them, whether it was through sponsorships, through being there,
Yeah. Yeah.
or I think that was
It was
just,
a great
it was great. It was
collaboration.
great.
Yeah.
It was
Pull
beautiful.
that off, and for the community, other cultures, white folks, it's all about it. We all may drink water in a different type of cup, but we're all trying
Right.
to quench a thirst.
That's right. And,
And
I
so
even had one of my Republican colleagues, Representative Crawford,
yeah.
was at the evening march. And, she was like, I just had to come.
Wow.
And, she and I, again, we agree on most things for the state, but there are few things that, separate us with party. But she
Mhm.
was there to show her support, and that meant a lot to me.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
That is so great.
yeah,
That to build relationships or to get things done, we have to build relationships. We have to cultivate relationships so that people don't see just the outside of the cover of the book. They also know what's inside. And
that's
it's so
right.
important that we continue to build healthy relationships with colleagues of opposite parties, of opposite race, gender. It's like, man, we're 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 going in the same direction. We
Right,
just may take Highway 49 and you take, Highway 605, but we're
right,
going to Jackson,
right.
and so it's so important. And I'm just so proud of what you guys have been doing and what the city has stood up for and our young leaders. These guys are phenomenal leaders that that I'm proud to be a part of. You know, also there was something we talk about the marches and the murdering of George Floyd. It's so important that a few days ago the city of Gulfport voted unanimous to remove the state flag. Just in your own words, I think you were in Jackson. We had just spoke just
Right.
prior to. In your own word, what does that mean? And what does that mean to you? But also as a mother of a young black man, what does it
So I first want to commend leadership in the city of Gulfport, the mayor and his staff, and the city council,
mean?
the entire city council, to have a unanimous vote to change the state flag is, I mean, just, I was just so excited. It set the tone for the rest of the state. And I mean, everybody up here may not agree with me, but I know my coast colleagues will. The coast usually sets the precedent. You know,
Right.
we
Yes.
have a really good delegation. I'm actually hoping that this delegation will join in on efforts of some legislation that I'm going to drop as soon as I get off this call, and that is for the legislators to vote on changing the state flag, to suspend the rules so that the legislators will vote to change the state flag.
That's awesome.
And I have been a very strong proponent of removing the Confederate emblem from our flag for many years. Um, Legislation that I have filed every year pertaining to this since
Yeah.
I came into this body, and will continue to do so. And I know it's not the most important, it's not everything, but it's a start.
Mhm.
And I look at changing our flag is a way to tell the rest of the world that Mississippi is ready to do business, and
Yeah.
want to do business. I think it is a tourism thing. It is a financial
Oh
reasons we
yeah.
should change it, and emotionally,
Yeah.
it represents a time of our history that we don't want to put to the side and forget. We want to know that it was there, but
Mhm.
we can say that we have made a change by changing it, and
Yeah.
that we are ready to now move forward. My mother always told me that the way you present yourself, how you wear your clothing, how you act, is the first thing that someone sees before you ever open your mouth.
Yeah.
And so Mississippi needs to change its clothes. So we need to
Wow.
change that banner so that the rest of the world can see us for who we are. We have very good citizens here. We have citizens that are very talented, very smart, and we don't need uh, bad looking clothes that prevent us from being successful.
I mean, we need to look good for the rest of the country to really see if
Who
they
we
just
are.
read. Yeah, they need. I totally agree. What's the temperature in Jackson about, or what's the buzz? What is the sidebar talks right now. Can you give us some insight on
So I'm getting thousands
about
of
the flag?
emails. Yeah, I'm getting thousands of emails. A lot of people are. The speaker is. There seems to be this little downflow of whether we're going to be able to pull it off this legislative session. So I, just recommend call call up here, um, and let your voices be heard. Call your representatives and your senators and let them know how you feel about the change of the flag. And so that's really important. And I know that we're getting close to a
We're
close,
good.
but it's some I don't I know this is
We're
your
good.
show, but it's
We're
a
good.
couple of things that I want to make sure
Well,
that I
before you jump on that,
uh-huh.
so just let us know how many emails have you gotten in the past 6 days?
I can't tell you exactly how many. I can tell you how many I have right now. Um, 19,379 emails. Um,
I
I
can't
can't
even
say
imagine.
all of those are pertaining to the flag, but I will tell you that, and this has been since last week, I would say 98% of those are pertaining to the flag, whether they are yays or nays. A lot of them are saying that we need to change. The majority of them that I've received are saying that we need to change.
Amazing.
And
That is
truly,
amazing.
people who have sent those emails out, um, let me give a little spill with that. The legislative staffs up here are very small. So legislators get their own emails. I don't have a staffer that's able, or staff members that are able to spit out a response to emails. So don't think that your legislator does not hear you because you sent one and haven't gotten it back. Um, because we are individual. I mean, it's left up to each individual to do that, and it's so much work up here. Um, but we see it, they see
Yeah.
it. So don't stop sending them. Don't stop calling. We get the messages. They come to our desk and they'll say what it's in reference to. You may not get a call back, but know that you're being heard.
Outstanding. So you were gonna enlighten us on something.
Yeah, so back to the protest slightly.
Yeah.
I am fine and big on people saying and vocalizing for change. But the way to make true change is through your vote. You can protest, as I told a group of young people. You can protest, you can scream, cry, tear up buildings, tear down statues. You can do all of that, but until you register people to vote and they go to the polls and vote, you can't make a difference. Your change, we're all change agents, but we can only do that through our vote. And so just today, I was actually doing a slew of, I won't say a slew, I was doing several requests for people to get their voting rights restored that I presented to committee, and it's passed out of committee. So that'll be coming to the floor soon. Because I think that once a person has served their time, regardless, and I'm a victim of, a violent crime, but I
Hmm.
think anyone who has served their time should be able to vote.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so that's other work that's being done, but voting is so important, and the census is so important to
Yeah.
our African American community.
Yeah.
We
It
must,
only takes about 15 minutes online.
if it takes that long, it's just a
Yeah.
few questions, but it has such a long lasting effect on what our state gets, what our communities get. um, so please, 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 as you all continue these types of conversations, if you haven't had one surrounding the census, please reach out to the census and get one. We all must make an effort to do that because it gives our numbers. And so if we don't have our numbers counted, it can change the fact that I could even be here sitting to represent you.
Mhm.
Because if we don't have the right numbers after the census is done, then they go back and they redistrict. our whole state for all positions, whether it's city council, Harrison County supervisors, House and Senate seats, all of that is restructured, redesigned. And so in order for us to have representation on all of these boards and seats, it's important that we fill out our census.
So important. So important. So Sonya, we are running close to our time, but I want to see if we have any questions. I know there's a lot of comments I see on Facebook, but I want to make sure if anyone has any questions. I'm just gonna look up here and just see if I don't think I see any. I think we're good.
No questions?
I don't see any.
I
It's
hope the
amazing.
comments were good.
Very good comments. Someone just posted the census there. Sonya, it's so important to have these conversations, and I'm sure, like myself, I've had a lot of my white friends call and ask different questions and wanting to know what else, what can they do. Have you had any conversations and phone calls like that, or had any, tough conversations, or um,
I have.
it's,
I have, but they're coming from people that I already know that that's how they
mhm,
feel. So they're coming from people that I'm not surprised that are
yeah,
making those calls. But what we have to do is that, and I suggest to those same people, I need you to have this same conversation in an uncomfortable setting
yeah,
amongst people that you know that may not feel the way you do, but they share your same circle. So it's one thing, it's easy to come to Sonya and say, Sonya, I'm so sorry about what's going on in our community as it
mhm,
pertains to Black men. But I need you to go to your circle of friends that look only like you and make that same statement that we have to stop this.
yeah,
And it's not just about the violence to Black people.
no,
It's layered.
it is.
It's we're passing legislation that
Yes, yeah,
constantly keeps minorities down.
yeah,
um when it comes to healthcare, we're cutting budgets that could give people proper healthcare. Just like when COVID came around,
yeah,
we all of a sudden realized that what we should have known before, and many of us did, that African Americans lead in heart disease, diabetes, high blood
mhm,
pressure, and COVID sitting on top of that is what's killing us. But the high blood pressure, the heart disease, and the diabetes all comes from not having proper food, um, diets, money to afford healthy
healthy
foods,
food.
better
Yeah,
choices,
yeah.
food deserts, where our
Oh
communities
yeah.
don't have grocery stores. In Gaston Point, the only place that you can get some food is the dollar store. There's no produce there.
Amazing.
There's no produce there. And I'm gonna need to get my battery. Um,
Oh yeah, it's
'Cause
all
my
good. Yeah,
my
we
computer is,
always about to
but
dial
but
in.
it's so many things and it's so much work to do. And I just really encourage people to get involved in your community,
Yeah.
and know that you can always call on me. If there's anything that you need of me as your representative, whether you live in House District 119 or not, as long as you live in the state of Mississippi, I'm here to serve you.
They can call you.
However,
They
oh
can
yeah,
call
they
you.
can call me. They can call my cell phone.
What's
My
your
cell
number?
phone. It's 228-326-8819. And Carlos is laughing because we've had a previous conversation about, I feel that any elected official, we represent the public and we should be accessible to the public.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I don't need people saying that they couldn't get in touch with me. You call
Yeah.
me, I may not answer, but I will do my darndest to call you back. You text me, I will text you back. If you know someone that needs, my assistance, I'm here
Yeah.
um, to serve
Yeah, her
all of it
heart is
together.
big. Her heart is big, and she helps people outside of the district. You don't have to be in Gulfport and living in her district, but she will collaborate and help people that call on her, and that's so amazing. Her leadership in Jackson has been phenomenal. Her assignments are great, and the way that she does operates in business and helping with our community has been great. There was one question before we jump off here, just kind of something that how do we activate the youth in this process? Um, from your
Okay.
perspective, is there anything you would like to add to that?
Yeah, activating the youth, I think needs to, adults need to be an example.
Hmm.
I never went to the polls and voted since my child was born without him with me. And we still vote together.
Yep.
If we don't vote together because I'm in Jackson and I voted absentee, he's voting. He's come home from college just to vote. And I think it's so important that we engage our children because we're engaged, bring them in with us. Also, I think that we need to look to younger leaders to ignite our young people
Yep.
because I may not view something just like someone else does, just as I said before. Um, we have to respect those that see things different but looking towards the same goal. It's not always one road to get there.
Yeah.
You know, it takes different avenues. You know, you have to turn left, turn right, stop, turn around, make a U-turn sometimes
Yeah.
to get to, the goal. But it's there and it's for all of us to be a part of. That is what is so wonderful about these United States of America,
Yeah.
is that we can make a difference and we can be a part of being change agents in our communities, in our state, and our nation.
Awesome. And that is a great way to end this talk. I know we could add another hour to this, but you guys, I mean, it's just so awesome. And Sonya, we thank you so much
Thank you all for inviting
for
me.
just coming on and spending time with us. I know that you have some legislation that's about to come to the floor, and if you could take off camera, we know that you got that call and you got to go. But we thank you so much for your leadership and your service to our community, to the state of Mississippi, and we're excited. We're excited, and we want to help you. If there's anything that we can do to help you, please let us know. Please let us know. We want to be that wind behind you as you are continue to be that change agent in Jackson, but also in our community here in Gulfport. So we really thank you so much. Sonya, drive safe, be safe, and please
See
keep
you all
us.
this weekend.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. You guys have a good day.
Bye now.